When I tried to ask him why he was doing this or whatever, he just told me to shut up or he'd kill me. So I just kept driving. My babies were in the backseat and they were crying. And I tried to tell him everything was going to be okay. He told me to get out. And I said, well, can I get my children? And he said, no. He said, I don't have time for that. And they were just crying. And
What you just watched was one of the most convincing lies ever told on live television. And somehow, the reason she lied was even worse. This case blew up back in 1994. It was everywhere. The kind of story you couldn't avoid if you had a TV around that time. Families across the country were glued to the news, waiting for updates, hoping for something, anything, good to come out of it. It started in late October of 1994, when 23-year-old Susan Smith appeared on national TV, begging for the safe return of her two sons, Michael, who was just 3, and Alexander, barely 14 months old. She stood there, emotional, holding back tears, with her son's father beside her, comforting her while she pleaded for answers.
please bring them home.
According to Susan, the nightmare began on October 25th. She said she was stopped at a red light at an intersection in Union, South Carolina, when a black man with a gun suddenly forced his way into her car, a 1990 red Mazda Protege. She claimed he told her to drive for a while, then pulled over, kicked her out of the vehicle, and sped off, with her kids still strapped in the back seat. She said she ran to a nearby house, frantically banging on the door, begging for help. The person inside called 911, and the search began almost immediately. Susan even gave a description of the carjacker to a forensic sketch artist, which was turned into a composite sketch. That image went viral and became the face of the case. But what made everything even more intense was the racial element. Because the suspect was described as a black man, the case quickly stirred up tension between the black and white communities in the area. A lot of people felt uneasy. Some believed the suspect was living among them. Meanwhile, members of the black community, many of them, still showed support, even joining the search to help find the boys. But as we now know, the truth was far more disturbing than anyone expected. The case took a strange turn when police began to notice something off about Susan's behavior. During interviews or public appearances, she would cry like a distraught mother, the kind of grief that makes headlines. But once the cameras were off, her demeanor would change. One time, during a sit-down interview, she even turned to David and smiled like she was excited just to be on TV. Then, the second the interview started, she switched back to the grieving act. On top of that, officers stationed near the scene of the alleged carjacking said they hadn't seen anything that matched her story. And her original claim, that she was stopped at a red light when the man approached her car, didn't make sense. She had insisted no other cars passed her during the incident, but traffic rules for that area meant there wouldn't have been a red light stop at all if there were no other vehicles coming the opposite way. She was brought in on 2 different occasions to take polygraph tests, and she failed all 2 of them. Upon seeing that the police were now considering her a major suspect, she and her husband, who still trusted her, then made their final interview video together.
I'm all they have. Right now, they have not been able to rule anyone out. I don't think I'm any more of a suspect than anyone in this case right now.
It's very painful to know that anyone would think that either of us had anything to do with this abduction of our children.
Under mounting pressure from investigators, Susan finally broke. She confessed that she was the one who got rid of her children. Authorities had hoped the boys were still alive, but they weren't. In her statement, Susan claimed she was depressed, struggling financially, and had originally planned to drive into a lake alone. Then, she said she convinced herself that her children would be better off with God than without their mother. She put Michael and Alexander in the back seat, still strapped in their car seats, and rolled the vehicle into the water. She said she tried 3 times to let the car drift forward by shifting into neutral, but each time she pulled the parking brake. Finally, standing outside the car, she reached in one last time and let go. Police rushed to the lake, used sonar equipment to locate the submerged car, and inside they found the bodies of both boys, still strapped in. From that moment on, Susan Smith became one of the most hated women in America, not only because she took the life of her own children, but because she intentionally targeted the Black community with a false accusation that sparked racial tension. The public outrage only grew when investigators dug deeper and learned the real reason why she took the life of her kids. It turned out Susan had been having an affair with her wealthy boss, Tom Findley. He had ended things with her a few days before the incident because he didn't want to bear children or raise anyone's kids. The only solution she could think of was to get rid of the children so she could be with him. Further investigation into Susan's life revealed even more disturbing details. It turned out she was actually having multiple affairs, including one with her stepfather, Beverly Russell, her ex-husband, David Smith, and even Chad Findley, the father of Maine lover Tom Findley, which was actually one of the reasons Tom decided to end their affair. During interrogation, when an officer asked Susan what her one wish would be, she didn't say it was to have her kids back. She said she wished she had never told Tom Findley about her affair with his father. Eventually, Susan was arraigned and sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 30 years, which came due in 2024. But by then, she had already racked up a history of prison misconduct, including sexual affairs with 2 different prison officials. And she gave what many felt was a fake, emotionless cry during her parole hearing. Her request for parole was denied, and she'll now have to wait until 2026 before she's eligible again. It's one of those cases that makes you question how far someone would go for selfish reasons. A reminder that evil doesn't always look like a monster. Sometimes it looks like a mother crying on TV. Let me know what you think about this in the comments, and if you've got another case you want me to cover, drop it below. See you in the next one.